DevOps friends! Hi Praxeus, thank you for the follow, Luigi. Welcome! I'm Jochen, the Monospace mentor, and it's Friday, so this is my office hour, where you ask questions and I take them, paste them into ChatGPT and read the answer. No, of course not. I'm going to come up with an answer myself. So this is my AMA hour, and you are invited to post your questions to qa.monospacementor.com, where I can collect all the questions, where I can keep track of them, where you can upvote them if you like, and I'll highlight them on stream so everyone knows what I'm talking about, and I'll try to help you out if I can. So if you have any questions about software development, IT operations, IT careers, site reliability engineering, DevOps, all these things, that's right up my alley, and I hope I'll be able to help you. So post your questions to qa.monospacementor.com. The link is in chat, and I'll come up with an answer. And we already have 2 questions on the board, so we are off to a good start. Keep posting them. I'll get to them in a minute. Let me just catch up a little bit. So I didn't do a live stream yesterday. Things got in the way. I'm sorry about that, but we had a nice live stream on Tuesday. And on a personal note, I'm quite happy with my progress this week. I was able to make a lot of changes to our infrastructure code. If you are new to the stream, I am the founder and CTO of a small web hosting company. We've been operating since 2010. And, sorry, let me just get rid of that. And where's my do not disturb? Turn on now. Exactly. So, what I was about to say was, we run a hosting company and therefore hundreds of Linux servers. And these Linux servers are operated by a tiny, tiny team of 2 people, including me. And so we have to automate everything, and we use Chef for that. And at the moment, we are in the process of upgrading our cookbooks, which is the name in Chef terminology for the infrastructure code that we build, and upgrade these cookbooks to Ubuntu 24, the latest Ubuntu LTS version, and the latest version of Chef, or rather Sync, the open source variant of Chef. And I had a hard time getting into these changes, and didn't feel motivated to do so, even though, who else should be motivated than me? This week I made a lot of progress, and I'm quite happy about that. I think I'm getting my stride again, and so that makes me really happy looking back on this week. Why am I telling you this? Well, I've been in the industry for decades now, and if you are new to the industry, I want you to know that these things are normal. There is always a risk of getting into a slump, getting demotivated, having a hard time doing things that you used to enjoy doing and are supposed to be doing as well. So that's why I'm sharing these things, just to give you basically a baseline of how it is to be working in this industry for a longer time. Other than that, is there anything else? Let me think. I don't think so. If there is anything that comes to my mind, I'll be sure to share it. But let's get to your questions. And the first question that I'm going to tackle is a question that was left over from last week. Someone asked, what is a life skill you think is underrated? And that question was quite surprising, and I couldn't come up with a with a question, with an answer right away. So I took a little bit of time to think about it. And I think there are a few life skills that are underrated. Some are more practical, like, for example, being able to sew and mend clothing. That's something that is definitely underrated and is something that might come in handy either when the person that usually does the sewing is on holidays, or if the person isn't available. For example, if you're out in the woods doing hiking or something like that, and you bend down and your pants rip from top to bottom, then those sewing skills will come in handy. And so that is one of the practical things that I think are underrated. But something that I regard more as a life skill, maybe because I'm a knowledge worker, as most of us are, I guess, is self-reflection. I mean, how many times have you been talking to people thinking to yourself, man, have you ever listened to yourself? And I think so these self-reflection and maybe mindfulness skills to be able to take a step back and look at yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, is this what I like to present? Is this how I want to be perceived by others? Those are definitely skills that are underrated as well, because usually all we do is look at other people and judge those, but not to get all too biblical on you, it's really hard to do the same for yourself. And so self-reflection, and then, of course, being able to make changes if there is something that you think should be changed. That is definitely a life skill that you can't learn early enough, and that will come in handy in all situations in your life. So there you go, one life skill that is more practical and one life skill that is more on the mental side. Something in between would be listening. Not just hearing what other people say, but actually listening, trying to understand them, following their train of thought, and being with what they say instead of already thinking about what you're going to answer. If you're not in a debate club, I think this will help you in all kinds of relationships. And I think we are in an age where winning the argument seems to be becoming more and more the main goal of conversation. And I think it would be very healthy for us as individual people and as a society to cultivate a culture of listening again, where we actually take in what the other person is saying, and only after having things sink in, then maybe coming up with an answer if necessary at all. Sometimes something doesn't even require a counterpoint or something like that. Sometimes it's just enough to say, yep, I hear you, and what you say is received. All right, that was a more philosophical question. Now let's get to one that is more technical. What is my role as a developer in a DevSecOps environment, other than actual application development? Shouldn't that be a question to raise with your manager? It can be. It can vary from role to role, I guess. But if you're talking about DevSecOps, which is of course, an abbreviation for development, security, and operations, it's probably it means probably that you should go in the reliability engineering direction, which means cultivating not only your development skills, but also your knowledge about the practical operations of stuff. How is the software that we develop then put into production? What are the requirements for it to work well? How do we make sure these requirements are met? These are operations questions that shouldn't be out of scope for you as a developer. DevSecOps is basically an extension of the DevOps movement that we've been now in for about 15 years, where the goal is to widen the horizon for everyone to not only focus on development or only focus on operations, but to have the whole what's called value chain in mind. So how do we create value for our business from the idea of a software to its actual application in production? And when I take the keywords in your question, you are a developer, but in a DevSecOps environment, then I would recommend trying to widen your view and also have the practical ops perspective instead of just getting the software finished and somehow pushed to production. It's a rather generic answer, I'm aware, but that's what I could take from your question. And as always, if you think that I could get more into details, then provide me with a follow-up question. Maybe expand on one particular aspect that you're interested in, and we can continue the conversation. It's not just a tennis match of question and answer, and then we assign points. It should be a conversation. So if you like, feel free to ask a follow-up question or simply post a clarification what the more precise intent of your question was. And until more questions come in, I'll go back here, and again, qa.monospacementor.com is where you can post your questions, and I'll pick them up there. A personal update that I can give you on what a personal update related to gaming that I can give you is that I'm actually trying out the latest World of Warcraft expansion. I was quite fed up with World of Warcraft, basically from the Shadowlands expansion on. And reluctantly, I did the Dragonflight expansion too, but after that, basically at the end of that expansion, I said, no, feels like a job. I have to do this and that on a weekly basis, otherwise I'll miss out on reputation points and all these things. So it felt like an additional chore, and believe me, I have enough chores as it is. And so I told my guild that I won't be raiding with them this expansion, and that I'll wait it out a little bit to see how things are. Maybe I'll find enjoyment again after some time. The reason why I did resubscribe so early on now was that we had a sad occasion last weekend. We had to do, or we decided to do, a memorial for a guild member who passed away far too young because of cancer. And so I resubscribed to join the memorial. And then I told myself, okay, now I have a month's time that I paid for. So let's try out the expansion. I did the final few quests from Dragonflight, but that didn't tell me much. I did then actually buy the War Within expansion, and now I'm questing and having a very critical eye on things to see if it's something that I want to get back to, if there is a chance of me catching up with my guild and joining them in raids again, because that's the main thing that has been fun in recent years, raiding with my guild. And yeah, I'll keep you posted if I'm going to fall off after this month or not. Definitely not going to fall for the sunk cost fallacy. Even though I've paid for the expansion now, I don't have to play the game. No one can force me to do that, and if I don't enjoy it, I won't. Dave says, I haven't played since Legion, but this has me considering. It seems to be at least on the level of Dragonflight, maybe a little bit better. I'm not far in enough to tell, so I'll probably spend some time over the weekend to find out more. And I'll keep you posted on my insight. But this is not my storytelling hour, it's my Q&A hour, my AMA. So if you want to ask questions, feel free to do so at qa.monospacementor.com. And yes, Dave, I can relate. Legion was definitely, in my eyes, was the best expansion ever. Maybe rivaled by Wrath, but I actually dropped off after Wrath. When I first had started playing WoW back in 2006, I played until Wrath of the Lich King. Then I dropped off for quite a few years because I left the corporate engagement where I had been playing with my colleagues. And I came back to Legion and had a lot of fun doing that. And then I kept playing off and on until now. But now Blizzard has me seriously miffed. But we'll see if they did a better job with the new expansion. Dave says, I don't have any particular questions, but I'm enjoying being here and listening. And I'm happy to have you here. Thank you. I'll be chilling here until questions come in. Enjoying the crisp fall air coming in from the window. It's a very nice day here in Ireland. It's been quite rainy lately, but today's a really nice day. Nice sunny day with the leaves changing color outside. I love fall. It's my favorite season. Oh, look, there is a question. I'm a cloud platform engineer and I struggle with test coverage. I want tests, they're great, but I always struggle to think of good tests to write. What are some strategies to write useful tests? That is a great question. That is a question that can really make a difference in your daily work. Because I agree, tests are great. When I started infrastructure automation back in 2010, I don't think there was a test framework for Chef yet. And I didn't know too much about testing either, because I was basically a sysadmin turned manager. And so I didn't have the practical software engineering practice. So when I went into building my own hosting infrastructure, I probably didn't even know that there was a practice of testing, maybe even test-driven development, something like that. And it took me years to introduce testing into our infrastructure code. But boy, when I did, what a difference that made. Before we introduced tests and achieved a decent test coverage, every deployment was a anxiety-inducing event where we deployed and then were simply waiting for PagerDuty to go off because we didn't know if there were any regressions and things like that. And once we had a test suite that had decent coverage, now we are very confident deploying stuff first into our test environment and then into production without much fear of angering our customers. And so I 100% agree, tests are great and should be a fixed part of platform engineering. Now, strategies to write useful tests. One practice that I now have ingrained is to write tests for every bug that happens. If something breaks, despite all your tests that are already in place, if there is a bug that sneaks through, then write a test for that bug right away. Of course, fix the bug, especially if there is a production issue because of it, but then go ahead and write tests that will be able to eliminate this particular issue from ever occurring again. So that's definitely one strategy, but that is, of course, not a proactive one. It's a reactive strategy. Dave says, oh boy, does that sound familiar? Push update, eyeballs sweat watching Grafana. Yeah, exactly. And imagine having a growing hosting infrastructure, and the more your infrastructure grows, the more impact bugs are going to have. Yeah, that really wasn't great. That was very anxiety-inducing. So what can we do proactively to write useful tests? I would recommend trying to actually do test-driven development, meaning writing tests first before you even start implementing your idea, your feature, your change, and then implement the feature, which then will turn your tests from red to green. I struggled with that approach for quite a while, which is why I actually wrote a blog post about it. And wait, before I start, I thought I might have a command for that, but apparently I don't. So yeah, let's dig that out then. That's over on my blog at monospacementor.com. And then we go to the blog. Here it is. So that is definitely something that helped me making sure that our test suite is growing with our feature set. Is there anything else I can think of? Well, I think that should basically encompass kind of a strategy. Write tests first, implement second, aka test-driven development. And should a regression happen or a bug sneak through despite your tests, then write tests reactively to make sure the bug is fixed and will never raise its ugly head again. If you've just joined us, I'm Jochen, the Monospace Mentor. This is my office hour where I simply take your questions and try to answer them without the help of ChatGPT. And
it's a Unix system. I know this.
Thanks for the follow, Dave. Yeah, and if you want your questions answered by me, post it to qa.monospacementor.com. There I can collect all your questions, get them on screen easily.
It's a Unix system. I know this.
Chris, welcome to the stack. Dave says, excellent follow alert. Thank you for the feedback. Took me quite some time to build it. Especially because I don't know any JavaScript. Putting this together took me quite some time. Lots of trial and error. Oh, there's another update that I can give you. On the programming languages front, I did actually start reading Learning Go. So I have started to get into Go, and hopefully in one of my streams in the near future, we'll do some exploring together. Maybe next week. So there will be Go in my future. I finally decided to give it a go. So we'll try that. There's an issue with the QA site, says Gatsby. Is there? I'm not sure. Works for me. And we did have people posting there, so... Can you tell me what exactly the problem is? Thanks for the feedback, though, Gatsby. I always appreciate help and advice. If you click on the burger on the left, it is not hiding the menu. Oh, right. Okay. Maybe that's a bug on the site, but unfortunately, it's not something that I can influence. That's something that I would have to pass on to Vivox, who operate the website. Vivox is basically a group collaboration or yeah, something like that. I mean, they describe it better on their own homepage, and I'm just using their service. Since I'm paying for that service, I might actually go ahead and pass that on. Let me see what happens if I try that myself. I'll try it in a different browser simply to see if there is something browser specific. Let me see. Let's go right to qa.monospacementor.com. Oh, you mean because if the browser window is wide enough, the menu gets displayed permanently, and the hamburger menu doesn't do anything to hide it. If your browser window is small enough, the hamburger menu will show the menu, and then you can click it away again. I see what you mean. I'm not sure if that's intentional or if it's a bug. It should not keep you from posting your question, though. Where are we in time? Okay. Past the halfway point. Keep them coming. qa.monospacementor.com. If you want to ask me anything about system administration, software engineering, IT career, software site reliability engineering, DevOps, IT career, anything like that, then post it to qa.monospacementor.com. As someone who has been programming since 1984, who has been doing Linux system administration since 1993, I think I might be able to come up with an answer. If not, I'll let you know too. Oh, here's maybe a follow-up on what I said earlier. Question is, what do you think about Golang? Do you prefer it over other languages that you have used over the years? Can you tell about the other language that you used? Oh, yeah. So I'm completely new to Go. I'm only getting into Go. I've only started getting into it by starting learning Go, the O'Reilly book, a few days ago. I have watched a few Go-related live streams or YouTube videos as well. I was especially interested about the strange relationship between Go and object-oriented development, but I haven't had any practical experience yet. So that's something that I hope to also be doing on stream, so you can join me while I learn more about Go. I guess it's going to be mostly about learning the syntax first, because I've been programming for a long time and have dealt with many a programming language. So it's mostly going to be a syntactical thing first, before I probably can then get into the more specific advantages of Go, like co-processes and things like that. I'm very interested in Go because it's such a popular system-level language, more of a successor to C, and that's not only because of practical implications where people choose Go over C. It's also because the same person who developed C also developed Go. So there must be an improvement over C, I guess. I'm very interested in having a language that is typed, that is compiled, and that is statically linked, because that's a huge difference to what I'm used to, because for the last 14 years I've mostly been doing Ruby. Give me a sec. Okay. I think that's past us. Okay, and don't get me wrong, I love Ruby, and it's going to be my main language for the time being. I'm pretty sure, but Go is a refreshing change of pace for me. Thanks, Dave. Having a language that is typed with all its advantages there, it's just a nice mental exercise as well for me. I'm always curious about new stuff. Eventually, I might even get into functional programming, we'll see. But of course, Go is also very interesting for me as a system administrator or a infrastructure person, because Go is very prevalent in this space. I mean, almost all of Kubernetes has been written in Go, and many infrastructure as code frameworks, such as Pulumi, for example, also support Go as a programming language. So it's definitely something that will be very useful for me on a practical level as well. Therefore, I'm very curious and excited to get into the language. I mean, I could also have chosen Rust for the same reason, I guess. With Kubernetes being written in Go and things like that, I thought, let's get into that. And also, I have a background in C programming as well, so I guess I figured that getting into Go won't be too much of a challenge for me. The other languages that I used before Ruby was Perl. I did a lot of Perl programming. Actually, I did Perl courses as well. I worked as a Perl trainer. I even wrote my own course book about Perl, a full introduction to Perl for my courses. Before that, I did a lot of PHP back when Web 2.0 started off, the whole dynamic web. And when PHP 3.0 came out, I started getting into that. I wrote my own Slashdot clone, of course, operated that for quite a while. In college, I learned Ada, but didn't get into it much, which is a bit of a shame, because now that I've researched Ada a little bit more, I think I missed out in expanding my knowledge about it back in the day. And now I don't have the time to get deeper into it without having a very practical reason, as I have with Go. So that's a bit of a bummer. I think I would have really enjoyed writing Ada code as well, especially because Pascal was one of the programming languages I learned early on. It was basically my second programming language after BASIC, which I learned on my first computer, a Commodore VIC-20. I then had a bit of CS in high school, where I learned Pascal. I also did Prolog in college, which was also interesting, but not very practical. What else is there? I learned a lot of assembler languages early on as well, because if you didn't do BASIC on a VIC-20 or a Commodore 128, then you'd probably do 6502 assembler. I also learned a little bit of 68000 assembler when I got my Commodore Amiga later. So lots of languages, lots of stuff. Turbo Pascal then got me into object-oriented programming with Turbo Pascal 5.5. As I said, now I'm deeply in love with Ruby, and that's why almost everything I do on a daily basis is using Ruby. Go will be a nice complement to that, I think. I guess I'll prioritize the culture question just to change gears a little bit. Thought about moving to Ireland from the Netherlands, but heard they are much less direct in their speech than us. I am afraid this will cause a lot of trouble with them feeling attacked. Could that be an issue? Well, it could if you are too blunt. But, if you are already aware that there is a little bit of an impedance mismatch between Dutch people, that applies to me as a German as well. Just holding back a little and not rushing in with your opinion or your feedback is probably a good idea. It's not that people will feel attacked, because I guess Irish people are dealing with foreigners a lot too, and know that people approach things differently in conversations. So there will be a certain level of understanding or of tolerance as well. I don't think it's going to be a big issue for you. There's going to be a much more practical issue for you, and that is housing, because the housing market here in Ireland is, I feel, and that might be my subjective perspective, but I think the housing market in Ireland is probably one of the worst in the EU. I know that it's not great elsewhere as well, but here in Ireland it's really terrible. And unfortunately, things like the war in Ukraine has only exacerbated this issue. it's definitely, I'm never going to blame victims of war for things like that. There are people here in Ireland that do, and I'm not going to associate with these assholes in any way. It's simply because the government is failing on a spectacular level at providing housing and creating a market that actually encourages people to build. And so that's going to be an issue for you, definitely, because if you want to rent, there's not much supply. And if you want to buy, the prices are horrendous. So keep that in mind, or check that before you actually pull the trigger on moving. Now, back to a technical question. Do you think it would be better to learn to use ORM or more raw SQL queries, type ORM versus PG in Node.js with PostgreSQL? I think I'll go with the ¿Por qué no los dos meme?
It's a Unix system. I know this.
Wayne's Brain, thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. An ORM will, or maybe let's catch up with what we are talking about here for people who are not too familiar with these terms. An ORM is an object relational mapper, a part of a programming framework where you can basically describe database queries in code. And that code is in the original language that you're writing in. For example, in my case, I would use Active Record as the ORM when I write, say, a Ruby on Rails web application. That definitely makes things easier. And it might actually also make for better code and better database queries. So I would say start out with getting into how to use the ORM of choice for your programming language and programming framework. But do not ignore that this ORM will always convert your code into SQL code that will then be sent to the database. Because there are, of course, situations where your ORM doesn't offer an efficient way to do a specific query, or B, the query that it does spit out is far from optimal. In both cases, it's always a handy skill to have your ORM output the SQL code that it wants to execute and analyze it if there might be a better way to go about things. So I wouldn't say start learning SQL from the get-go, because that, of course, requires additional time and that time might be spent better elsewhere. But when you have the opportunity, get into how SQL works. It's not too complicated. And learn about what a query optimizer does and things like that. So you can go beyond what your ORM of choice offers you. I'd use that approach. That's what I meant with the ¿Por qué no los dos meme. It's not one or the other. Ideally, it's both. Wayne's Brain recommending Kaisley. I've never heard of it, but I'm also not in the Node.js space or in the JavaScript space in general. So check that out. Rainsbrain asks, do you do mostly Ruby on Rails? Not even Ruby on Rails mostly. If I do web development, it's definitely going to be Ruby on Rails. But I don't do much web development either. I am mostly a system level person. In fact, I'm a CTO of a small hosting company where we run hundreds of Linux servers. We are specialized on high performance hosting for Drupal and WordPress. And so taking care of the hosting infrastructure on top of taking care of the business itself is my main occupation here. And that's why Ruby takes often the form of chef infrastructure recipes, so the automation code for our servers, or Ruby on the command line to automate stuff on that level. That is more or less, I'd say, 80% of what I do, and the other 20% is then probably Ruby on Rails. For example, the hosting dashboard our customers use is written based on Ruby on Rails. I really love Ruby, and I don't see myself going away from it because it serves my needs so nicely and it's so much fun. Ruby really has the goal, it's the explicit goal stated by the inventor himself. The main goal of Ruby is developer happiness, and I think that's clearly visible, that really shows. And the Ruby community is great as well. I don't see myself going off Ruby, but as I said, exploring Go will be a nice change of scenery anyway. Batman joining us, asking or saying cool keyboards. Thank you. Yeah, I spent a lot of time and even more money on those keyboards. I love mechanical keyboards. It was a nice hobby during COVID. Fullsnovel, hello and that. Hello to you too. Nokela says, developer happiness sounds like a trap. Well, it might as well be. Fullsnovel says, I thought the dev community agreed upon Rust now. No, that's not the dev community, that's the Rust community. And we have another question on the board that I triggered by mentioning WordPress. Does the WordPress versus WP Engine drama affect you? Unfortunately, yes, it does affect me, at least on the level of mental health. Because, yeah, it causes me a little bit of anxiety to see that there is another leading person in a development community who is so far removed from reality that they risk causing significant damage to their community simply to fight a personal battle. And what I mean is, I'm already used to DHH being very divisive in the Ruby on Rails community. And now we have Matt Mullenweg doing the same on the WordPress side. That is definitely concerning. And seeing that he is now targeting a WordPress hosting company, albeit the biggest one there is apart from WordPress.com, and so far different. We are my company is far on the other end of the spectrum, but it still concerns me, and I'm a little bit bummed that I find myself reading court documents now simply to analyze how much this is relevant for us as a company and as a business. It's weird. It's really weird. I have no idea how someone can act like that. And for example, if you're not familiar with the drama, there are a few interesting blog posts by people about WordPress versus WP Engine. I can send you a few links on our Discord if you like. By the way, if you want to join our Discord, then feel free to do so. And my buttons don't work. Why do my buttons not work? Let me see. Those buttons should work, but we are not connected to Twitch. Why are we not connected to Twitch? No one knows. Now it should work. Discord, here we go. Join us if you like. King Rodham. Nice to have you. We start like with the hammer. If you are a lion, everything looks like a gazelle. So, yeah, my answer to the question about WordPress and the WordPress drama is basically it doesn't affect us as a business yet. So I'm not too fussed, but I'm concerned about the WordPress community because, dramas like this tend to have serious consequences. And those would be completely unnecessary if people would behave like normal people. Here's another question. What kind of experience should one get if they wanted a job in DevOps? How would you go on about getting the experience without landing a job? I mean, I'll make it very simple. DevOps means development and operations combined. So if you up until now have been dealing with mostly one of those two sides, so you've been mostly been a developer or been mostly a system administrator, then it's definitely required to expand your horizons to the other side as well. So as a system administrator, you should probably get into software engineering, not only learning how to program, but also into the more engineering skills like domain-driven design, object-oriented design, things like that. And if you are a developer, then it's a good idea to get into the more production-oriented side of things, how to run software, how to monitor software, how to make sure software is doing what it's supposed to do, how to find out if it's not. things like orchestration, how to operate infrastructure at scale, observability, how to instrument software so that you get the metrics that you need in production to see if your application is healthy or if there is somewhere you should take a look at. And these are the things that you'll need to be more than just a software engineer or just an operations person. If you want to cover the whole of DevOps, then I mean, you can't know everything in that space. It's far too great or far too big already, and it's continuously expanding. But there is probably a different mindset because I guess that's what led to the DevOps movement in the first place. The mindset of a developer is more oriented towards the cutting edge, how to leverage the latest inventions in software development to implement your business goal, how to use the latest framework and things like that. While the operations mindset is more a conservative one, because change is always bad for uptime. And so being able to juggle these two perspectives in your own single head is going to be an interesting exercise. But that's what DevOps is about. And that is my more general answer to your question, how to get into that. Try to get your feet wet with stuff that you haven't yet touched. And of course, there are a lot of practical ways you can do that. For example, if you are a software developer, getting into operations could look like creating Docker images from the stuff that you code and then run them on a VPS, for example, and see how what kind of tooling you need to get from a change that you made in your editor to that change actually running on your VPS in the end. How do you deploy things? How do you automate updating your image registry and things like that? How do you use an image registry in the first place? All these things will expand your knowledge and your skills into the DevOps space. Fuller Snabel also has a practical, some practical advice. Most important thing to get a job in DevOps: find out if the employer actually do DevOps, or just say they do DevOps but kind of don't. Yeah, DevOps has been a term that gets abused a lot, and I would also be one who says DevOps is not a job title; it's more of a mindset. It means you can actually balance the requirements of software development with the requirements of the operation of said software. So that's definitely a mindset and a skill set that can be acquired, but it's not really a role. The role is more the role should be more tightly defined in my mind. And if you're interested about that, feel free to ask. As always, post a question to qa.monospacementor.com. Fuller Snabel asks, how do I ask questions? Isn't that a question already?
It's a Unix system.
I feel like my brain is going into recursion right now. Nokala, thanks for the follow. There is a question on the board. Will WASI replace Docker? Where my answer will be a quick, I don't know. I don't think I've ever heard about WASI. So that's something that I will have to look into. We'll park that question until I know more. And so I'll tackle the other one. What is your opinion on cloud platforms versus owned infrastructure? It seems a lot of companies are willing to pay money for renting the infrastructure. Yeah, and that's sensible if you have the money, because it's going to allow you to spend your time elsewhere. So if you are a startup who needs to, for example, first find its product market fit, then it is sensible not spending a lot of time on setting up infrastructure and operating said infrastructure, and focusing on your own product, and seeing if it's going to fly or not. And only then, when you actually see product market fit, then it makes sense to ask again, are we going to make or buy? And the answer might be, yeah, we'll still buy, because now we have product market fit. Now we are actually making revenue, and now we can reinvest that revenue into getting our product run by someone else on someone else's computer. That's perfectly valid. It's simply a trade-off that you're going to make, where you buy more product development time by spending money on someone else's infrastructure. Of course, there's also an economic point of view where at a specific point of your scaling, it will be cheaper to pay employees, to hire and pay employees to run your own infrastructure instead of paying someone at, say, AWS or Google Cloud. That is more a financial perspective, and you should have someone who can feed Excel well enough to find out where that break-even point is. For me, it came very early on when I started building our hosting infrastructure, because back in 2010, of course, the cloud was all the hype. And I actually started with a few EC2 instances. And when I got my first monthly invoice, I realized, for that kind of money, I can actually rent a lot of server capacity from a data center, and I didn't have to hire anyone to operate these servers because I could do that myself, having had already decades of system administration experience at that point. So that decision was easy. I quickly terminated those EC2 instances and went to leasing servers and server space. And so, of course, these are all considerations that are very individual to the business, but should be done. Where do we want to spend our money, and where do we spend our brain juice? And if the answer is, yeah, we want to focus on our product and not on hard disk models, then it's fine to spend your money for the infrastructure. And at some point, you might want to revisit that decision.
It's a Unix system.
Gatsby, welcome to the stack. Revisit that decision and see if it makes more sense now to run your own infrastructure, say on-premise, or at least...
I know this.
Yariki, you are welcome as well. Yeah, you know what I mean. Fullesnabel, you are a cynic. But you already stated that. Nokela asks, where is that it's a Unix system from? That's from Jurassic Park, actually.
It's a Unix system. I know this.
It is a very rare 12-year-old who's not only familiar with Unix systems, but actually with the most expensive Unix systems you could get at that time. But yeah, that's movies for you. Okay, so follow-up question, any experience with Hetzner? Yeah, lots of experience because that's where our hosting infrastructure is running. All our servers are running with Hetzner, have always been. That's where what happened when I got my first serious Amazon invoice. Oh, my nose is itching again. I said, okay, yeah, for that kind of money, I can rent a lot of servers at Hetzner. And yeah, we've been a Hetzner customer for more than a decade now and have a very good business relationship with them. Oh dear, that's also an interesting but a little bit sad question. My workplace is moving to micromanage our time through Jira tickets. In this job climate, how can I increase my chances of finding a new job? I can relate. That would be something probably combined with other issues. The Jira mania usually doesn't come alone. That would be something that would get me reconsider my my role as well. That's definitely a red flag. But as you already know, and as you indicate in your question, it's not as easy jumping ship anymore. So finding a new job is definitely something that you can do on the side. Don't just quit yet. But I guess it's a very general question because you don't say what kind of a job you're looking for. I would say simply take a look at job postings and see what's required for those jobs. If there is something that tickles your fancy, and then focus on these specific requirements. So if you want to get, say, into operations stuff, then focus on what companies are looking for at the moment in terms of operations things. Is it still Terraform? Is it something else? Is it more cloud infrastructure? Is it stuff like serverless? All these things. Find something where you say, yeah, that could be something where I feel at home, where I feel comfortable, and basically dress for success on the knowledge level. What I mean by that is simply expand your knowledge in these specific areas that usually are required to get you the job that you want. Do you have any horror stories on customer inventions? Some company developed their own Jira system and it was entirely done with Excel, SharePoint, and Power BI. It was not very good result. I don't think I have any horror stories like this. I mean, sometimes it's horrific what people can do to WordPress or Drupal. And that's when we get into discussions with customers who complain about their web application's performance and things like that. And we take a look at the SQL queries they fire at our database clusters containing joins between 14 different tables and missing 3 key indexes and things like that. So that's definitely something we deal on a daily basis. We deal with on a daily basis, but at least we don't have these Frankenstein monsters that you described. On the other hand, it's pretty impressive what can be done with Excel alone, or maybe combined with other products in that space, like SharePoint or Power BI. Because it's very easy to get stuff done with Excel and say VBA, or what the current name of their automation language is. It doesn't always need to be a homegrown piece of software. For some things, a run of an off-the-shelf application like Excel, or I do remember Microsoft Access as well, might just be what's necessary. Don't underestimate what can be done with off-the-shelf software. Proper coffee. I already failed at your name. I'm so sorry. Proper Copper Coffee Pot asks, are Linux security engineers a thing, or is this an amalgamation of a sysadmin and developer? I guess I'm talking more with somebody who has a strong focus on SE Linux, AppArmor, kernel hardening, etc. It can be a thing. It can be, definitely, depending on the organization that you're in. Having a strong focus on the security side of things might actually be what people need, especially if you are in a high security environment, for example, at a company that is a payment processor or does similar stuff. Having people who are specialized in system level security definitely makes sense there. Elsewhere, it might be part of a SecOps team, for example, where you combine operations knowledge with more deep security knowledge. That would probably be what I usually describe as a T-shaped engineer. In this case, it's about ops in general and security in particular. If you're not familiar with the T-shaped metaphor, I'll try and illustrate that for you. Give me just a second. Ooh, we are already far past the hour, I just realized. Okay. Well. Now, let me see. Okay, here we go. So what I meant by T-shaped is that you have the bar of the T And that's basically all kinds of topics. A very broad but shallow range of knowledge. And that will make up the most of your skills. But then there is one or later, maybe even 2 or 3 specializations where you really go deep. And in the case of a SecOps person, I would say that person has a broad knowledge about system administration, about running software in production. And then there is a specialization in terms of security, knowing more than the common system administrator, for example, about SE Linux or AppArmor in other distributions, about how to harden specific applications, these kinds of things. And that would make you a T-shaped SecOps person. And of course, if your company is not big enough to have a specialized team or even specialized engineers, then it's going to be more of something where you as a system person try to get as deep as possible on the topics that are relevant for your role. So yeah, there are places where specialized security engineers are a thing, but they are mostly in bigger companies, and especially in companies who have security related interests. Like I said, if they are processing payment information, if they are processing medical information, if they are processing other kinds of very personal stuff, then it makes sense to pay someone to specialize in security. Otherwise, it's just going to be one of the many topics that you'll have to cover. Fundesnabe says, I'm the security engineer at my company. My qualifications is that I said yes. I think companies should make it a rule that people who volunteer to be security engineers should never be security engineers. All right, so I leave the WASI question. Thank you, Dave. Time to empty my tea, I guess. I'll keep the WASI question for next week, because I do my office hours every Friday at 2 p.m. Irish time or 1 p.m. UTC. By then, I hopefully have researched WASI and will be able to come up with a qualified answer. Other than that, I guess we'll do it like we do it at the pub. Last orders. If you want to ask a final question, post it to qa.monospacementor.com. Maybe we can squeeze in 1 or 2 more. And then we'll see who we can raid, and then I'll have to do a few more things before I can then go into the weekend and to karate training.
I know this.
Nuda Veritas, welcome to the Stack, the Naked Truth. Welcome. Here's another question. What do you use for observability? Well, for example, you could try shouting in public places. That will get you a lot of attention, and you will be observed a lot. Saka QWERTY, hello! Are you a sibling of Saka Colmac? No, but seriously, what do you use for observability? We've gone through so many approaches to getting the right information from our systems. I started out with using Nagios, which is super simple and will give you a lot of value for very little effort. The same goes for Moonin. I'm not really sure if Moonin is even around anymore. I wouldn't recommend either Nagios nor Moonin anymore, but I had a lot of fun using them. For Nagios, there is actually a successor product called Isinga, which is still in use by many people, and Zabbix, yeah, proper coffee pot. I will train pronouncing your name. Zabbix is definitely another great solution as well. That has a very low barrier to entry. What else? Then I found Sensu, and Sensu was a revelation because it was a distributed, or it is a distributed system. And that solved a lot of issues we had with Nagios, because with our growing infrastructure, the amount of checks and metrics we had running overwhelmed our central Nagios host quite quickly. And Sensu, with its distributed approach, using a message bus and things like that, was much more performant and had a much easier time keeping up with our infrastructure growth. Unfortunately, they changed their licensing, and so we had to find something new, and that got us to what we are, to where we are now, where we mostly are using Prometheus to collect all kinds of metrics, and we feed those metrics into Grafana to visualize them, and in the meantime, we also had been using NetData, which was a great way to visualize metrics in real time. But the additional system load that NetData creates isn't really worth it anymore for us, because we basically can get the same, or at least every relevant information using Prometheus and Grafana as well. So that's where we ended up by now. And I mean, you can ask again in 3 or 4 years, and we'll see which solution then succeeded Prometheus, I guess. I'll trust the prefix quick thing. Did you read about the recent WordPress drama with the founder of WordPress, I guess, and WP Engine? If you have, what's your take on it? I covered that already in an earlier question, but my quick answer would be I agree that with many people who regard what Matt is doing as not only a disservice to the WordPress community, but also something that can significantly endanger the community. It can significantly deter people from using WordPress. And what he does is petty and stupid. That would be my short take. And as the managing director of a small hosting company that's specialized on WordPress, additionally to Drupal, I'm a little bit worried about the fallout from two capitalists pretty much removed from everyday reality. I don't remember how I started the sentence, but I think you get my point. Yeah, I think it's terrible, and I hope we can get that behind us very quickly. Okay, we have a few more questions, and I have a little bit more time, so those will be our last questions. What makes a Linux administrator CV stand out? Good question. It's always a good question when I have to think a little bit about my answer. With your question being the only context I have, I would say if we are talking about a more traditional Linux administrator role, then it'll definitely make you stand out if you also have experience with more cloud-native technologies like Kubernetes, like Docker, things like that. Because that's where system administration is evolving, has been evolving in recent years. Companies that need to administer Linux-based systems at scale often will benefit from using cloud-native technologies like Terraform, like Kubernetes, things like that. And being able to list these things on your CV will definitely make you stand out a little more than what I meant by traditional Linux administrator, in the sense that, yeah, that's the root user who is familiar with Linux services, with systemd, maybe even the security frameworks like SE Linux, AppArmor, who knows how to run Apache or an Nginx or MySQL or things like that. Cloud-native technology is something that no Linux administrator can go completely without nowadays. At least Docker should be a part of that, if not technology derived from that, like Kubernetes, for example. And proper copper coffee pot follows up with, perfect, makes sense. Would you say throwing in Ansible Terraform helps? Ansible, definitely. Terraform is more, gets you more in the cloud native space, where you want to spin up cloud infrastructure at scale. But even if you focus on more on the on-premise stuff, or the VPS stuff, where you have to deal with a run-of-the-mill Linux system, Ansible will definitely help you automate things. For example, in my case, as I told you earlier, I started out in 2010 using Chef for automation, and since we are pretty much invested in this by now, we'll keep running Chef for the time being. But if I started fresh, I would probably look at something like Ansible, maybe something like Pulumi, yeah, Ansible will, for example, also be part of the advanced Linux course that I'm working on at the moment. As Monospace mentor, I'm going to offer a bunch of courses around the whole reliability engineering space. And in my Linux courses, especially in the advanced one, I will definitely cover Ansible as well. That should be part of your tool chest. Then there's the question, any insight in the use of Podman instead of Docker for containerization? I think Podman is a nice alternative to Docker. Since I'm running Bluefin, which is based on Fedora Silverblue, Podman is part of my workstation here, and I enjoy using Podman, and it did introduce me to rootless containers that make it very easy to run a workload in a self-contained, hence the name, way. And I do enjoy using it over Docker, it being open source software and so on, and not related to a license, things like that. Yeah, I can definitely recommend getting into Podman. It's a great way. I have dabbled a little bit with Podman pods, but not enough to actually give a verdict on them, but they seem to be a nice way to run a bunch of containers in unison. That's something that I want to look into a little bit more. But it seems to be a great idea. Are you feeding more questions in? I think you are. Pixel Buttercup, thank you for the reminder. Now my cup is going to be empty. Do you know a good solution for basic server-side traffic analytics without the need of cookies? I would like to prevent the cookie banner and GDPR issues. If you'd like to do it server-side, I would... Duke redeemed affirmations. Okay, we'll do that as the final point of today's stream. I haven't done that in a while. Looking forward to it. Posture check as well. Thank you. You are very concerned about my health here. I appreciate that. Especially since I have to do karate training later, so I shouldn't be completely tense. Given that I'm already completely dense, at least according to my wife. Yeah, what I was about to say was there's always analyzing logs if you want to do things server-side. And I think it's still a valid approach, simply taking the logs from your web servers and analyzing those. There are great solutions for that. Of course, it's a very established way of doing analytics. Something that I want to do for our hosting infrastructure is going to be feeding all our Nginx logs into Elastic Search and analyzing them there using Kibana, because that allows you to do a little bit more slicing and dicing of these details. So that might be a good solution for you, or you could simply take one of the many off-the-shelf analytics tools, starting maybe with Go Access that you can run on your web host, or something more sophisticated that does log processing. I mean, those tools have been around for decades by now. What's the longest running server you have running right now or had, and how many days of uptime is it? Let me see if I can give you a definitive answer for that. Let's see. Oh, interesting. Just confused myself a little. Give me a minute. I'll find a way to give you a definitive answer. Let's see. Okay, so if I do... Let's first get the uptime of a few hundred servers. And now, can I get that in JSON format maybe? I'll simply get the days. Okay, can I sort that naturally? No, that did not work. Let me see. Doing a little bit of shell magic here, grabbing and sorting stuff. All right, so down here's the result. Our longest running machine has been running for 1,967 days. Final question. Are there any software-based solutions for change control management? We are using Word for our forms at the moment, which is honestly a drag to use at times. Pretty sure there are, but since we are a very small company with very short distances between people, we don't need any of these more sophisticated solutions, so I'm not familiar with any. What I would probably use is something like Notion, where you have some kind of database functionality, but very easy ways to enter data and to get it out again. So instead of building something yourself, or maybe paying a lot of money for an oversized solution, maybe there's a middle ground that you could build yourself with a I'm not a fan of the term, but in this case maybe it's appropriate, a no-code solution like Notion, for example. That's actually what got me into Drupal in the first place when I was in my corporate management roles. We need to have something like a change management and a scheduling solution, and that's what got me into building something based on Drupal, which was more or less a no-code solution as well. I didn't develop anything myself. I just clicked stuff together and used existing Drupal modules, and that's what led me into doing Drupal hosting when I started my own business. All right, folks, as I said, I'll leave the WASI question open for me to answer it next Friday. So stop by again. Proper cup of coffee pot says, thank you again. I feel terrible for asking you more questions. I feel you probably have to go. Yeah, I want to go, and I'll wrap things up now. But hey, if you have more questions, feel free to stop by our Discord and ask there. Or maybe even consider joining my DevOps membership community called the Server Room. I have created a community of DevOps practitioners with the goal to help each other grow, and it only requires a very moderate membership fee, and that's the ideal place to ask more questions or to share your own experience with the community. And of course, that's not only a good way for you to grow, but also a way for you to support me and my work here. And so that's definitely something that I'll ask you to consider. Anyway, I'll be back next Friday with another office hour, and hopefully with additional live streams on Tuesday and Thursday. So don't forget to follow the channel to get notified when I'm back. And I guess it's time to do the DevOps affirmations. Give me a second while I prepare myself. So, if you're not familiar, DevOps affirmations are a way to wind down after a stressful day, to become more centered in a job that often is very frantic and stressful. And that's going to be my service to you. And after that, we'll wrap the stream up and see who we can raid. But first, I hope that makes you feel a little bit better. What? Are you serious? There was an issue with the microphone. I hate myself right now. Oh dear. What happened? Let me check. I will do them again. Oh, that's such a shame. Let me see. See, I haven't used that in a long time. And something broke. Yep, I can see what broke. See, I should have looked at chat earlier, but we'll give it another try. Let's see. Test. Begin by opening your heart to this exercise. Take a deep breath. Inhale. Exhale. You are in your happy place. Your code is well written and reliable. All your pipelines are green. You don't just think in software patterns, you live in software patterns. Your friends and family understand what you do. That application you took down had already been sunset by product management anyway. You are one with Kubernetes. Your sense of humor is appreciated by everyone around you. There will be no incidents today. You are happy. You are happy. You are happy. Don't cry, Dave. Didn't want to make you cry. I hope you enjoyed it. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Alrighty, so let's see who we can raid. What? We haven't raided Bald Bearded Builder for quite a long time, and he actually seems to be at his desk at this point in time, so let's say hello to Michael. If you want, you can simply copy and paste our raid message. Oh, I gave it away! I'm an idiot. Well, let's start the raid anyway, if I gave it away already. Thanks everyone for watching, and I'll see you next time. Have a great weekend. Until then, take care.